Welcome back to the Lost Tactician, where the grit of survival meets the soul of history. Today, we're embarking on a journey to resurrect one of humanity's most revered crafts. Imagine a world where steel was folded 1,000 times, not by machines, but by the sheer will and skill of a master's hammer. We're stepping back in time, armed with only ancient tools and a burning question. Can we truly rediscover the lost art of forging legendary samurai armor without a single modern aid? The air thick with charcoal smoke, the rhythmic clang of hammer on steel, the ancestral knowledge encoded in every fold. This is the challenge that awaits. Tamahagane, the legendary steel of the samurai, represents more than metallurgical achievement. It embodies a philosophy of perfection through repetition, strength through patience. This remarkable material, forged from the humblest origins of iron, sand and charcoal, achieved properties that still mystify modern metallurgists, a perfect marriage of flexibility and edge retention, capable of withstanding the brutal demands of feudal Japanese warfare. Our mission stands clear and daunting. Without thermometers to measure heat, without modern furnaces to regulate temperature, without the consistency of industrial-grade materials, we must recreate what took Japanese smiths generations to perfect. Ancient texts describe processes, but the tactile knowledge, the feel of properly heated steel, the sound of a good weld, the visual cues in the metal's color, these were transmitted master to apprentice, lost when the lineage broke. Can we bridge centuries of silence and rediscover what time has nearly erased? The journey begins with earth itself. Iron sand, called satetsu, must be sourced from riverbeds and coastal deposits where ancient smiths once scoured for this precious resource. Unlike pure iron ore, satetsu contains lower iron concentrations, requiring massive quantities to produce even modest amounts of steel. The charcoal demands equal precision, pine and oak, carefully carbonized to achieve the sustained clean-burning heat necessary for days-long smelting. The Tatara furnace stands as the cornerstone of our endeavor, a clay and stone structure built entirely by hand. Its construction follows ancient blueprints with precise air channels, creating the oxygen flow essential for reducing iron from sand. The smelting process becomes a test of endurance. 36 to 72 hours of continuous operation, feeding charcoal and iron sand in measured intervals, maintaining bellows rhythm, and, of course, monitoring the furnace's breathing. Smiths didn't sleep during these crucial days. They lived beside the flame, attuned to every shift in temperature. When the Tatara finally cools and we break open its clay walls, what emerges looks nothing like gleaming modern steel. The bloom, a spongy, irregular mass of crude steel riddled with impurities, appears almost disappointing. Yet within this unpromising beginning lies potential for greatness. This inconsistent material represents our starting point. An ancient smith saw not what it was, but what it could become through fire and hammer. Temperature control becomes our greatest challenge. Without pyrometers, we must read the steel's color as it heats. Black to dark red signals, too cool for working. Bright orange to yellow indicates the narrow window where metal becomes plastic enough to forge yet hot enough to weld to itself. Ancient masters trained for years to develop this eye, recognizing that a difference of mere degrees could mean the distinction between perfect welding and, well, catastrophic failure. The hammerwork demands equally nuanced skill. As the heated bloom rests on the anvil, the first strikes come slow and deliberate, feeling the metal's resistance. Too hard and the brittle steel shatters. Too soft and no consolidation occurs. The rhythm builds gradually, methodical blows that compress the bloom, forcing out slag and impurities in showers of sparks. Rice straw ash, sprinkled across the glowing surface, acts as flux, allowing impurities to flow away from pure iron beneath. The first fold arrives after extensive consolidation. The flattened bloom is cut partway through and folded upon itself like closing a book. Returned to the forge and heated to welding temperature, the doubled layers must fuse completely. Insufficient heat leaves invisible cracks between layers. Excessive heat introduces fatal brittleness. The hammer descends again, and if all proceeds correctly, 2 layers become one seamless whole, ready to be flattened, cut, and folded once more. The mathematics of folding become staggering. After 8 folds, the steel contains 256 layers. After 16, over 65,000. Each cycle presents fresh challenges as the steel's character evolves. Early folds expel gross impurities, visible slag particles popping out under the hammer. Middle folds homogenize carbon content, redistributing high-carbon regions throughout lower-carbon areas, creating uniform structure that permits both edge hardness and core flexibility. Late folds refine grain structure, producing the microscopic architecture that gives Tamahagane its legendary toughness. Maintaining consistency across these cycles taxes every aspect of skill. Heat loss accelerates with each fold as surface area increases. What once required minutes to reach temperature now demands barely seconds of forge time. The physical demands intensify, constant hammerwork, perpetual motion between forge and anvil, unrelenting focus to spot developing flaws. Ancient smiths worked in teams, rotating positions to maintain the relentless pace this process demands. The harder the grain pattern emerging in the steel's surface becomes our report card. These distinctive patterns reveal the folding's success. Straight lines indicate simple folding. Wood grain patterns suggest complex manipulations. Irregular formations warn of incomplete welds or uneven heating. Reading the harder requires interpretive skill, seeing in these abstract patterns the narrative of every heating cycle, every hammer blow, every decision made throughout the forging journey. As the final folding cycle completes, anticipation mingles with uncertainty. Testing begins cautiously, bending samples to assess flexibility, examining break surfaces for grain structure, searching for signs of properly forged Tamahagane. Modern analysis of authentic samurai armor reveals specific characteristics: fine, uniform grain structure, carbon content between 0.6 and 0.7%, and complete absence of slag inclusions that plague inferior reproductions. If successful, the metal should flex significantly without permanent deformation, demonstrating, the kind of elasticity that allowed samurai armor to absorb tremendous impacts without shattering. The surface should display these subtle hada patterns, marking genuine Tamahagane, which is proof that our folding achieved true metallurgical bonding. Most critically, the steel should possess that indefinable quality the Japanese called aiki, a kind of life or spirit manifest in how the metal responds to stress. Yet even successful replication raises some pretty profound questions. Have we truly recovered ancient knowledge? Or are we just, approximating it through informed guesswork? The original masters, they possessed an intuitive understanding that we can only really intellectualize. Maybe this gap between technical replication and lived mastery represents the truly irreplaceable element of lost arts. The quest to replicate samurai steel forging without modern technology, honestly, reveals truths that extend far beyond just metallurgy. It reminds us that our ancestors achieved remarkable feats through patient observation, accumulated wisdom, and a profound respect for their materials and their craft. In an age of instant results, there's something deeply humbling about facing challenges that just can't be rushed, problems that demand we submit to the material's nature rather than trying to force it to our will. This journey connects directly to survival. Not just physical endurance, but really the survival of knowledge itself, the preservation of human capability across generations. Every fold of that ancient steel, in a way, represents a choice to maintain standards, to refuse compromise, and to honor those who came before. If this exploration into the intersection of history, metallurgy, and human perseverance has captivated you, go ahead and hit that like button and share this video. Subscribe to the Lost Tactician for more deep dives into how our ancestors survived, thrived, and created beauty under, well, impossible conditions. The past has lessons for those willing to listen, and sometimes those lessons are written in folded steel.